I'd like to thank for everybody. That is loud. You will hear everybody tonight. Everybody. That's good. Does it sound good? Pretty good? Okay, am I scaring you this morning? All right. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We really do appreciate it. This is the South Carolina Superintendent of Education Republican Candidate Forum, and we're very happy to have some candidates in the that's going to actually be up here speaking with you tonight. If you don't already know, I'm Tom McAbee. I'm the chairman of the Republican Party here in Union County, and I just want to thank you all for coming out already. Restrooms. I know I've already been asked about restrooms right quick. We have one restroom over here upstairs. We have the men's restroom that goes straight downstairs, and the women's restroom downstairs on this side. I've already talked about water. We have that over here. If you get thirsty, we've got that for you. So make sure to go ahead and grab you some water if you want some. See, there's one, Jacob. Let's see. Restrooms have already done that. We do want to say a special thank you to not only the candidates that are here tonight, we also want to recognize some of the candidates here locally, here in Union, that we have in attendance. One in particular, we also have the SC House 42, District 42 seat, Doug Gillen, Representative Doug Gillen is here tonight. We also have a candidate for House 42 seat as well, another Republican candidate, Melinda Butler. So she is here. She's also running for House 42 as well. We have two Republican candidates running on that ticket. We also have Philip Russell, a Republican candidate for Union County Supervisor. Russell. Danny Bryant running for Union County Council, District 1. Annie Smith for County Council, District 4, Republican candidate. And Gerald Eads, District 4. I'm sorry, District 4, District 5. District 5, Republican candidate. And District 4. Also, with this being a superintendent, South Carolina State Education Superintendent Forum, I find it only fitting that we have in our audience tonight the newly selected teacher, District Teacher of the Year, Ms. Katie Prince. The audience, I see a lot of teachers, both retired, still active. We appreciate each and every one of you coming out tonight. We're going to go ahead and open up the program with prayer. Brad Weaver is going to do that for us. So, also to remind everybody, today is actually National Day of Prayer.
That's what I was going to say. Today is National Day of Prayer. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to be here tonight and gather fellowship and listen to these people talk about things that are important to us and decide who's best for us to vote on. Like I say, thank you for letting us live in a country where we can have that decision. And keep us all safe. In your name we pray. Amen. I need to tell a quick story. For all you people who are running as Republicans, in 2010, I'm too loud. In 2010, Freddie, me and my brother, Dale, and Mike Fowler, what's Dale's last name? Robinson. We were sitting at work complaining about things, and we didn't have a Republican Party in Union. The Republican Party had 3 people in it, and they were all mad at Mike Anthony for combining the schools, and he was a Democrat, so they were Republicans. It didn't have anything to do with, Republican ideals. So we went and took over. We took 5 and they had 3, and we went from that to this. In Union County, since Reconstruction after the Civil War, nobody had won a countywide seat as a Republican. So that man right there did. He made history. So we've gone in 12 years from having 3 people in a party to 2 months ago we had a thing on Main Street with 200 people and it was sold out in just a few days. So the Republican Party here is growing, and that's where y'all come in and running for office and stuff. As a Republican, it's a big deal here. Things are changing. It took a while to get to this point, but We're here now. We started from nothing just a few years ago, and now we're getting bigger every day. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you, Brad. We really do appreciate that. Also want to recognize Mr. Jerry McKee for being here tonight. He is videoing this forum for us, and we can't thank him enough for that. So that's going to be not streamed, but you'll be able to upload it. So to the candidates, not just the superintendent candidates, but also the local candidates. Anyone here in this room, if you wish to go at a later time after tonight and watch it, Jerry McKee has got it. He's filming it for us tonight, so we want to say thank you to Jerry for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Right now, if you will, stand with me. We'll pledge allegiance. So again, we're going to go ahead and get things started. We're going to ask the executive committee of the Union County Republican Party. If you don't know him, Ronald Reedman. This is Freddie Galt. He's with us tonight, and he's going to talk about the program, the rules, and he's going to introduce you to the candidates.
Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight, taking time out to hear these folks. We've said this is such an important position. A lot of people think about the governor and attorney general being important, they are, but the superintendent of education is so important to our school districts, to our students, and I'm glad to see we've got some good candidates that have announced. Just so you know, we have 6 candidates that have announced to run the Republican ticket. 5 are here tonight. I think that speaks so well. This is not Greenville where 500,000 people live, and it's not Richland County, we get 300,000. We've got less than 27,000 people in Union County, and these people drove from all over the state to be here tonight to tell you about themselves, and I have a lot of respect for them for doing that. So the way the program will work tonight, each candidate will come up, they'll have 15 minutes at the podium to speak to you. It's their choice if they want to open up the question and answers, but they'll have 15 minutes, and then we'll rotate around. We had a random draw earlier, so they know who's coming up. I'll let them introduce themselves as they get up here. But being mindful, when the program's over tonight, we've got candidates that have 3-hour ride home, 2 hours ride home. We're 10 minutes away, so these folks have a long ride home, trying to dodge deers or right down the road. So understand if they look like they're hurting out of here, really they're not. It's just that it's been a long day, they've got a long ride home, and we want them to get home safe. So at this time, our first candidate will come up.
Sorry, you want me to sit down?
I didn't know sign me. You said move out of the way.
Brady, you don't have to move. You can come up here. Just help me along the way. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Brady. Thank you all for being here tonight. I can't thank you enough how important it is for you to be here to hear what we all have to say. My name's Linda Leventis Wells. I was born and raised in Charleston. We moved to Greenville when I was in middle school. And I know the Yamanduras very well. Our families go way back. And I know several of our people here because my dad had the Palmetto House here in Union, and we were reminiscing in the back about how great it was back then. And that's when I was working at the Richland County Sheriff's Office as their deputy psychologist, sexual assault, and I handled sexual assault, child abuse, child molesting cases. And then on the weekends, when I wasn't on call 24/7, I would come to the Palmetto House and work the weekend with my dad. And I loved this. I loved deer season because these guys would come in at 4 o'clock in the morning. My dad opened the restaurant, and I said, "Are we up?" He goes, "Yes." And I said, "Okay." And it was just fun. This is the best kept secret of the state of South Carolina, Union, South Carolina. And I just want y'all to know I'm just thrilled to be here. So I want you to know also that when I filed basic 101. Read qualifications and make sure that you have the qualifications to run or apply for an office. Well, I did, and I told my husband, who's sitting right here in the pink, takes a man to wear pink. But anyway, so I said, Alan, I'm not qualified to run for this. And he said, well, you worked all your life for this, Linda. And I said, you're right. So I applied. You had to have a master's, and I got a master's right after I graduated from college with my undergraduate degree in health and physical education. I have my master's in guidance and educational psychology. I went to the University of South Carolina. I went to graduate school at Ole Miss. And then from there, I came back to South Carolina and I went to the sheriff's office. And when I went to the sheriff's office, I was talking to David outside. And David and I have a lot in common. He's protecting us outside. I don't know if you met him. But he also had law enforcement, military, and he taught school. Well, I've done the same. When I went through basic, I loved it. I ended up getting a job at the academy, the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy. And then my husband took a job in Saudi Arabia. And our daughter was young. And he married for better or for worse. And if that's the worst thing he's ever done, I think I did pretty well. Because went to Saudi Arabia and taught at the international school in Riyadh. And I loved it. I've loved every educational facility, school that I've taught. And I cannot tell you how much I love education. We have candidates that we have two. One's here tonight, and he's going to work on his master's, and he's going to get it in 5 months. And we have another candidate, Ellen, who's not here, who's going to get her master's as well in 5 months. Now, your teacher, do you have your master's? How long did it take you?
2 years.
2 years. But you did it the right way, and you worked. Well, that's what I want you to know. How do you get a master's in 5 months? I don't know. I am not a politician. I am an educator. I am not a politician. I'm for our children. I am not a politician. I care about our schools. I am not bought and paid for. No one owns me. I am an educator. I believe in our schools. I believe in options. I believe in everything that we need to do. And do we have things going on in our schools that need to be addressed? You better believe we do, don't we? We have it. CRT, out. Any strands to CRT? We don't need anything that's going to divide us. But we are going to make sure we're united, because that's what we're all about. But when it comes to teachers, COVID did a real damage on everyone. You had students that weren't in school. You had students that were in school 1 day or 2 days. You did e-learning, you did virtual, you did all kinds of different things. We did everything in Greenville County that we could think of. I'm on the school board in Greenville County, and we are the largest district in the state of South Carolina. We have 76,000 students. Our buses travel 38,000 miles a day. We have 800 square miles in our district. We have 15 high schools, 18 middle schools, 52 elementary schools, 4 career centers, and the list goes on. Roper Mountain Science Center. But teachers, our first-year teachers that came to work when COVID hit, experienced something they never thought they would ever endure. They went into a situation where children weren't in school. They had to do online. You have teachers that have been in teaching for years that aren't quite as computer savvy as most people are. So they weren't able to really get the message across to our students. I was never an advocate of masks. I am not an advocate of masks. I've had COVID twice, but it's a proven fact that masks don't work. I'm also against mandates. We have too many mandates placed on our students in schools. The tests are ridiculous. The homework, the papers, the requirements, the pressure that teachers are involved in is phenomenal. If you've never been in a classroom, we had 4 people that have been in a classroom that are running. Brian, Kathy, Kizzy, and myself. If you've never been in a classroom, you have no idea what teachers go through. You have no idea, if you don't have children, you have no idea the homework and everything that goes along with having children in school. How can you be in education? How could you want to be the superintendent, stay in education? I have 2 children. We have 2 children. Alan always gets upset when I say I have 2 children, but he was a big part of it. They're both graduates of our public school. One graduated from JMA, one graduated from Greenville High. My mother graduated from Greenville High. She was born and raised in Greenville. Alan graduated from public school. I graduated from public school. I taught at Greenville Tech. I understand college and high school. We have to prepare our students for college and career ready. If we want to give them the tools they need so that they will be successful when they go off to college, or if they go right into the workforce, or if they decide to continue their careers in hospitality, automotive, mechatronics, whatever the situation is. We have to lay a strong foundation for our students in school. Teachers are so important. They make a difference in our children's lives. So basically what I'm telling you, and I will address any questions that you have. No CRT, no mask mandates, reduced testing, recruit the best teachers, and talking about how do we do that? Because I've got answers for every one of these things I'm mentioning. What we have to do for our teachers is we have to do something similar that happened overseas. For first-year teachers right out of college, let's give them an opportunity, maybe have an apartment complex that someone owns and give them a discount on their rent until they can get situated and moving in the right direction. Professional development, reducing class size, giving them incentives the longer, if they go to college here in South Carolina and they come back to teach, give them incentives to work off, to go towards their student loans and so forth. Make sure if they want to get their master's that we are assisting them in the price and offsetting some of the costs for them. Y'all, we've got so much to offer here in South Carolina, and we cannot put up with anyone that does not have a background in education. We just can't do it. So let me ask you, I can take maybe 1 or 2 questions. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Where do you stand on social emotional learning?
Okay, social emotional learning. How many of you knew about CRT 5 years ago? How many of you knew, raise your hand, how many of you knew about it 3 years ago? How many of you knew when this election occurred and everything came out, how many of you know now what CRT is? Everybody. That's the same with social emotional learning. No one knew 7 years ago when our district was developing the strategic plan for the district. We had over 2,000 people involved. I thought we had 700. I asked the superintendent, he said, no, Linda, we had business people, we had parents, we had students, we had everything. And they implemented social emotional learning. Well, 7 years ago, no one knew what SEL was. They didn't realize the ramifications. They didn't realize they would manipulate that into something else later on. My take on it is we need to get rid of all strands associated with CRT. And today, SEL is a strand of CRT. And it needs to be taken care of. It needs to go away. That's a great question. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
If a child is assigned a project and does not turn it in, does the teacher allow to give them a 0?
Okay, so it depends on the district. And no, the child should not get a 0 unless if they have a good excuse why they were not able to get it done. As long as they have a good excuse and they just didn't throw it to the side and say, I'm not doing this anymore. If they have a good excuse, then the teacher should work with that child and help them along the way, because y'all, we have to assist these children so that they are successful, because their success will benefit us in the future. They will be able to work in the workforce, they'll be able to feel good about themselves, and they will be able to move forward and not experience this negative behavior that, no, you're getting a 0 and you're not going to be able to pass this class.
No, I need to follow up on that.
Okay.
My stepdaughter is a teacher. She gave a 6-week assignment. The child didn't even turn in the paper with his name on it. And she stayed in a 0. But the school board said she had to give him 50.
Okay, so that is a statement. I totally disagree with this 50, but you know why the 50 came into play? Because the football coaches got together and changed the grading system so that their players would be able to get scholarships. So they're saying if you give students a 50, then they could possibly get their average up to passing by the end of the semester. And that A's now are 90 or 91 or 90 to 100, and B's are 80 to 89 and so forth, where it used to be you had to work for an A and you had to work for a B and you had to work. And now we're giving things away. And we've got to get strict on this. But, what's your take on this? Do you feel like do you think we need to give grades? No, they need to earn them, right? And that's the way I feel. You need to earn your grade, you need to work hard, and you need to put forth the effort. And I always told my students, help me, help you, and we will be successful. Yes, ma'am.
Across the board in the state of South Carolina, we have extremely high children reading below grade. What's your plan to correct that by 3rd grade?
Okay, so I really believe we need to start kindergarten early, K3, K4. We've got to get our children reading, because if you can't read, you're going to fall behind. We have a learning gap as it is right now from COVID, and our children are behind grade level. And in Greenville, what we did is we implemented mediation with the ESSER funds, and we had 11,000 students in summer mediation for math and reading. And then this year we have it before school, after school, and weekends. They're able to take remediation, and we have certified teachers who retired and came back, and we are utilizing all of our resources because we've got to get these students not only at grade level, but they've got to exceed grade level. And we've got to get our students where they can take college classes in high school so that they know that they can go on to colleges and universities. It's very important. Yes? Okay, and congratulations on Teacher of the Year. I hope we'll be celebrating next year for you as you go on to that last step. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Kizzy Gibson, and I am extremely excited to be running for South Carolina Superintendent of Education. I was raised in Orangeburg, South Carolina, by 2 educators and administrators. They served close to 40 years in K through 12th grade and on the college and university level. I'm excited to have them with me tonight. My dad, Alvin, my mom, Greta. I am qualified now to run for this position. I'm qualified to serve. I had to serve tomorrow. I could. I earned my BA in art education from Claflin University in 2003. I earned my master's from Columbia College in 2005. And I earned my doctorate in education from North Central University in 2016. I have been teaching in the state of South Carolina for over 18 years. And I've taught K through 12th grade for all of those years because I teach visual arts. I taught in Hampton County, Calhoun County, Orangeburg County, Lexington, Richmond 5, Lexington 1, and I taught at South Carolina Connections Academy, which is a virtual public charter school, and we serve students from across the state of South Carolina. So every walk of life, I've had my fingerprint on the children of South Carolina. My years as a teacher have been filled with leadership positions. I've served as a teacher mentor, as a teacher evaluator, as an education team lead, a truancy interventionalist, a charter school committee chairperson, a charter school president of the board of directors, a professional development facilitator, and most importantly, a student mentor. And I say most importantly because all of those roles, I feel God directed my path. They weren't happenstance. I didn't just happen to serve in those positions. Every position, God had a plan and a path for me. But as a student mentor, I was able to impact the life of one child at a time. And I was able to spend time with them as a reading buddy, helping with math, giving them guidance, and that's kindergarten through 12th grade. I've been at various schools through South Carolina, and all of those leadership roles, I really feel God was ordering my path and preparing me to serve as South Carolina Superintendent of Education. In regards to my personal life, I am married. I've been married 18 years in July. My husband Jerry and I are raising David Jeremiah, who's 16, and Alicia May, who's 14. So in August, Dr. Gibson and her husband will have 2 high schoolers. So keep us in prayer. Raising children is not for the faint of heart, especially teenagers. I served as the president of West Metro Republican Women out of Lexington County for 4 years, which is 2 consecutive terms. And I also served as second congressional district director for South Carolina Federation of Republican Women. And most recently, I took on the role as the chaplain for South Carolina Federation of Republican Women. My husband and I and the children, we attend a local church where I serve on the intercessory prayer team, on the altar team, and on the praise and worship team. So I sing. I love singing. A tidbit of information about Dr. Gibson. As far as what I want to do in South Carolina, we all know the issues, but I believe it takes someone who has experience and a background in education to clearly address those issues, and not just serving in a classroom. I am from Orangeburg, South Carolina. That's where I was raised. If you know anything about South Carolina, you know that Orangeburg sits on the border of shame. And that's what it's called. It's called that for various reasons. Throughout the years, I noticed that we thought we could just throw money at it and that would fix it. However, coming from the border of shame, I can tell you it's not a money issue per se. And I have initiatives within my platform that will address the issues that we are seeing along that border of shame. As far as my belief about children, I believe that children are a gift from God, and that it is our duty, it is our job to protect them, to educate them, and to encourage them. And those of us who go into the field of teaching, we shouldn't do it lightly, because the Bible says that teaching is a gift from God. And you shouldn't step into it at all with hesitation or with any doubt that you are imprinting your fingerprint on the next generation. I believe that the path to becoming a productive citizen is through reading, writing, math, and creativity. And those need to be the main focus, not what we're seeing right now. We need to have character building. We need to bring family back, faith, individual responsibility, entrepreneurship, and all of these things that I listed, they enabled Americans throughout history to move from persecution to prosperity. One of my immediate goals is to create a task force to review and replace textbooks that are pro-CRT and social-emotional learning. CRT creates a victim mentality. We don't need that. We have to start with changing the mentality of the students and the parents in South Carolina from a victim mentality to a victor mentality. We need to eliminate these false teachings from the teacher training. If you know anything about what's happening in the teacher training right now in the state of South Carolina, they are teaching that you need to make a difference in how you address students in your classroom. For example, my daughter during COVID was taking a math class. Her teacher got up and said, I'm going to do everything that I can do to make sure that all of my black and brown children succeed in my math class. What's wrong with that? If you have a child who's not black or brown, they automatically think, well, wow, this teacher's not going to do anything to help me even if I'm struggling. And many of you probably do not know, but I am married to a Caucasian. And we have 2 biracial children that we are raising in the state of South Carolina. And for her to hear that, she doesn't look like me, she looks just like her dad. So she came home distraught, knowing that she was already set up to not succeed. That's the type of system that we have to stop in South Carolina. No child should ever sit in a class and feel as if their teacher is not going to do everything they can to help them succeed. Moving on to what I want to implement. I have an initiative called the Certified Student Mentorship Program, and it is designed to help students across the state. I want to bring in dads on duty, and I did take that from Louisiana. They did such a great job implementing that program. They saw great success with it. Moms as mentors, veterans as mentors, officers on the offense, pastors of promise, and entrepreneurs. I really believe that this mentorship program is going to address, number one, some of the literacy problems that we're seeing, because when you have a buddy, a mentor, an adult who believes in you, that you already have everything you need inside of you, it's God-given. If you have that in your corner, you're going to do much better than trying to do it on your own. And that's the voice that I want this mentorship initiative to push to every child, that you already have everything inside of you to succeed. Soft Target No More is a school safety initiative, and that is very important to me. I've been in the classroom 18 years, and I cannot count the number of times that I have been hit, big, you name it, it has happened. Kindergarten through 12th grade. My first year teaching, I was hit by a 19-year-old male. I was 22 years old, and that was my first experience as a teacher in the state of South Carolina. We have to get a handle on the violence that we are seeing in the classroom. Soft Target No More would implement the metal detector wands and metal detectors that children need to walk through. Now you say, Kizzy, who's going to man these stations? Let's go back to my Certified Student Mentorship Program. All those people that I named out. If you start as a Certified Student Mentor, you can volunteer once or twice a year to man those stations to keep our children safe. We have to do more. We have to do more. I already mentioned that I want to remove CRT and make sure that we don't have the 1619 project being taught in South Carolina. So that's good, we want it gone. But what are we going to replace it with? I love the 1776 curriculum by Woodson and Hillsdale. Not only do they teach factual history in this curriculum, they also teach character virtues, which we desperately need in the state of South Carolina. When I started teaching in 2003, we saw a slow decline in morals and values, and we are still there. I assure you, I taught this morning, we are still there. Children need to learn forgiveness. They need to learn grit, resilience, optimism, courage, hard work, innovation, grace, all those character virtues that all of us in here learned as a child because our parents taught us. We know that parental involvement is the key to any child being successful. And when you don't have parental involvement, you have what we have right now in South Carolina. So we've got to do more to make sure that our children are getting what they need. I want to make a financial literacy course a requirement for students to graduate in the state of South Carolina. What good is it to become a doctor or a plumber or a lawyer and you don't know how to manage your money? We must make sure that they have a financial literacy course available. I want to bring back home economics, trade, tech education, and make sure that children have access to those courses. I took home ed, I learned to cook, I learned to sew, But mom taught me, grandma taught me, but every child doesn't have that. So we need to make sure that it's there. Also, I would love for students to be able to study the Bible from a historic standpoint. No one can say, oh, you're teaching, a certain religion, but if you're studying it from a historic standpoint, because it did happen, it's reality, it happened, then I feel that we're opening children up to those character traits that we say they desperately need. I want to make real school choice a reality in South Carolina. Right now we have an education savings account. That's great, the money follows the child. However, if you know anything about the money that's following the child, it has strings attached. It has strings attached. It has the social emotional learning that we're seeing in the classroom. It has the CRT tenets that we're seeing in the classroom. Your private school, your faith-based, they're not interested in teaching that curriculum at all. So those kids, and even homeschool, they're not going to receive those funds. There was another bill that died that opened up the possibility for those children to have complete school choice, and that's what I want to see in South Carolina. I want to complete the job of removing Common Core. It's still about 90% there, and that's one of the reasons we have a lot of the learning gaps that we are seeing in South Carolina. I do not support mask mandates or COVID-19 shot mandates for children to receive an education in the state of South Carolina. I think I'm going to open for questions. If I have time, how much time? I can't see that. Is that 3 minutes? All right, I guess that's 1 or 2 questions.
Okay, we have such a problem. I work with young children on the way up to middle school children. We have such a problem now with the discipline in the school. How are you going to get the parents more involved in their children's schooling, because they're not.
They are not, you're absolutely correct.
Discipline at home like they should, they're not waiting for. How are you going to come around?
One idea that I have for parental involvement, because all roads lead home, we know that. If a child is misbehaving in class, all roads lead home. So we are going to have to make parents accountable and tell them, okay, we're not going to send your child home to sit with you. You're going to have to come sit with your child. Because if the teacher can't teach, and that's happened to me. I've had children, like I said, bite, hit, that I have to haul out. And learning stops when I have to do that. Another thing that I want to implement is bringing in more instructional assistants. Right now we see it in 4K, 5K. We need more instructional assistants. When you look at how the medical field, they don't have a whole lot of doctors, so what do? They pull in PAs who answer to the doctors. Why aren't we implementing that? I'm sure, I know I've seen a PA and they're great. They give me my medicine and I get better. Exactly, so we need to be implementing things that we see working in. So what's wrong with having a second set of eyes, of hands within the classroom? So.
Kizzy, how do you feel, or what would you do to offset the sexually explicit and the LGBTQ information that's coming into elementary schools? How can the state handle that?
Well, first, let me set the foundation. As a born-again Christian, I believe that we have male and female. We don't transition from either. And when you die, you dig those bones back up, you are still a male or a female. I think we need to stop setting delusion to children, selling it to them as if it's reality. The first thing that I want to do is clear the trash off the shelves. And it's not just in your school media center. It's in some of the teachers' libraries, their personal libraries within the classroom. So making sure that we utilize technology and have a live list, not just a list that you give parents at the beginning of the year and say, yeah, this is what's in our library, this is what's in the teacher's library, live. Because we all know books can move in and they can move out. And setting up something so that parents can say, I don't want my child to check out X, Y, and Z content, and having it flagged so they can say, oh, you're not supposed to check this out. And not just to the student, but also to the parent that, hey, your child tried to check this book out today. So it gives them the option to have that conversation with their child, and hey, we don't look at this because of X, Y, and Z. So it puts the power back into the hands of the parents where it belongs. I think my time is up. One more, okay.
Along the lines of what I asked, whether about the reading across the board in South Carolina, right at 60% of our third graders read below grade level. I don't know, districts like Union and others, what can you do from the state level to make sure the schools get this? If we keep sending these children beyond third grade, below reading level, they're ending up on the streets with drugs because they can't read, they can't get a job. We've got to stop it earlier. The plans we have to
I have two solutions. Number one, we all know that parents are the first teachers. So we need to make sure that parents have the ability to read as well, to read and write. So hitting it from the parental side, offering programs for parents to get their GED, to feel like they are confident enough to teach their child to read. Then number two, well actually it's three ways, bringing in the mentorship program that I spoke about. And I know as a mentor that teaching a child to read is number one. And when we make sure that our certified student mentors understand that's part of your job, if you're going to volunteer as a mentor, to ensure that these children are reading on grade level, supplement what they don't know. And then number two, bringing back phonics. I think that's so important. I think we got away from it and we're seeing the results of it. Those of us, I'm an 81 baby, and we did phonics, and it worked. I can read. I read to my children Dick and Jane, a very old book, Dick and Jane, and I taught them inflection and how to pronounce words. I let them put their hands to my lips and feel what it feels like to pronounce. And speech therapists, they play a huge role in reading. And I think making sure that they understand their role, bringing them in beyond just, oh, this child has a speech issue. Bringing them into the classroom more to work with children 4K and 5K, where it's very important for that development phase.
Where are you on expanding the schools here? Expanding the schools.
To combat the learning loss, absolutely. I know in Lexington there is Aiken County who's exploring it for the 24-25 school year. I think it's a good idea. It's a charter school in Orangeburg that's doing it as well, and have been doing it. The parents love it. Thank you all, I appreciate it.
Hello, I'm Brian Chapman, and I've been in Chester. I just did drive-through, and I was able to serve as pastor right there in Chester County, so this whole journey tonight, or this afternoon coming up, was a great thing, and a great feeling at Woodward Baptist for 5 years right out of seminary. I'm here, and people ask, why are you running for school board? Superintendent, well, I'm on the school board, but state superintendent of education. And we have a House of Hope guy, Brian Braddock, in February 9th, asked me, I said, you need to run for state superintendent of education. I don't know what the outcome or what the process is. But we took time, and about 2 months ago, the whole journey began. And some of the things, I'm going to do a little background on it. I grew up in Hartsville. I went to Hartsville High School. Then I went to University of South Carolina. I did sociology and psychology. I knew I was going into the ministry. And then God led me to Texas. And I did a Master's of Divinity and a religious education degree. While I was out there, I served as a pastor for 6 years in youth ministry. During that time, I was surrounded by topless bars and peak places. I went to the Texas House and got involved in the politics. And my Christian ethics paper is related to SOBs, sexually oriented businesses. Don't go bad there, okay? As I was there in seminary and serving in a church where you can walk out and get the porn and the magazines out of the parking lot, we were there and we realized that in the state of Texas and the Republic, every county affected the whole state. So only 14 had sexual-oriented businesses. So they bought out all the other representatives to go with their agenda. So as the educational process and how things begin, and we've seen the whole explosion of life and craziness as we look at that. And I met my wife at Red Lobster in West Texas, in West Fort Worth. And she was my manager, so we were undercover, I shouldn't say undercover. We were secretive while I was she was a manager and I just waited tables. I learned more waiting tables, it seemed like, than in seminary. You got your sight, you got your smell, you got your taste, you got your hearing, you got all these senses. And I've learned that 2% of the population will never be happy no matter what you do for them. But as I waited tables for 5 years, I worked at Sunoco for the first year. My dad worked in Hartsville at Sunoco Products. He was a fork truck driver. And I was raised on a farm in Hartsville. Soybeans, cotton, corn, rye, oats, wheat, drove combines at 16, did all that stuff, hard work. And every summer we would do tobacco, and that would pay for my year at Carolina, the fall semester, and we would sell the Angus cows for the spring semester. So I was blessed by my parents. My dad went to college in Georgia. He was called back the first semester because his dad was near death. So he came back to Chesterfield County, and he became a farmer. So he told me and my sister we will get educated. And so both of us went to USC. In 1968, in September, I set the first football game of my life at 4 years old, and we spent a lot of times looking at losses and a few wins along the way in the time at Carolina. And so as my dad taught that, me and my sister both had my master's, and I got mine at Southwestern. But my dad really had a heart for education. So as I went around in my life and journey, I got married, and we've been married for 31 years. And on the paper it says I have 5 kids. That's legal. I helped raise 3 other godkids, and they call me Dad. I have 2 in Somerville. I have 1 in Florence with me. I have 3 gifts from God, from DSS, 12 years ago. They came up with me at 5, at 9 years old, and at 14. God stretched our house, stretched my marriage, and stretched my mind about education. I had 2 of them that ended up in alternative school a couple of times, and I had 1 come up here to Greenville to the School of Creative Arts, the government school. So I had all F's on one side, and I had all A's, and then everything in between. And in those 12 years, teaching and learning disabilities, we had a few of those in our kids from DSS that we got, and they became my kids. They were gifts from God. Their mom died and their dad went to prison. And so God gave us them. They knew us. And the 14-year-old at that time, I used to pastor them when she was younger. She got a cousin to drive her to our house, drop her off, and then I was coming back. I was a hospice chaplain for 3 years. I'm a minister. I'm bivocational, so I do more than one job. Our church there, we have a church at the movie theater, red, yellow, black, and white, purple, green, and mean, and every color in between. I believe that we are all created. We mentioned CRT already. No one should be critical of anyone's race. We are all, in Revelation, all nations, all tribes, all tongues, will all be on the throne. So you're saying, how does a pastor talk like this and there? I served 9 years as a teacher. It's through the Christian Learning Center. I taught the Bible in public school. So I mentioned about the pastors getting involved. In our school district, some are doing it 1 day a week, and some do it once a month, a few districts. Our district teaches 4 middle schools for the last 19 years, semesters, and then it went to where we did 9 weeks sessions. So we've been teaching the Bible off campus with parent permission based on the 1952 ruling that the Jewish took to the Supreme Court. So there are many things here in Union or any district in our country where we can work and give faith-based learning. It's open to any faith. It just can't cost a school district opinion. If you want to learn about Christian Learning Center, you want to make a difference, and getting pastors involved and those involved, I can tell you all about it. I did that for 9 years, worked with administration and principals. They loved us. When they had fights and they had different things happen, I would say, I would call or text them. I said, why don't you ask this student this question? And you might find out what happened yesterday at the lunch. So it was great work with giving and taking and helping and being involved and doing something different. And that's pretty much my life. Teaching for 9 years, and then God led me to run for school board. And I'm finishing up my 8th year in school board. And learning about a lot of these things. All of us in the school board know about the changes that are coming and the payments and all that. I sat down this past week analyzing $172 million, the revenue sources, and all the things that are coming in from local and sales tax and all those kinds of things. So the budgets and everything that's going on is pretty crazy. Why did I run? Ron Braddock challenged me at the House of Vote on February 9th to run. And I have a daughter in California. She's in Pasadena at Harvest Rock Church. They are the first ones to sue Gavin Newsom. I've been very familiar about what's going on in our public schools in California. My daughter then has been there 6 years. That's why I'm running. I'm not going to run from it. I can sit in the pulpit and say nothing. I can sit in my school board and be content. I can take my years of education and do not. But I feel like it's a perfect storm for me in this time in my place, in the different places of business. I have a driving school. Yes, I have to drive on and pray. I got my brake on my side. So I've been with 16 and 17 and 18-year-olds for the last 6 years. It's amazing what happens in those cars. You hear about the families. You hear about the struggles. You hear about what's going on. And they open up. It's amazing. A lot of people say they don't. But you can hit a button and they unload all of what's going on in their life. The pressure, the sexuality that was mentioned earlier. I went through a period in my life where I was in the same-sex culture for 3 years. You're not supposed to say that, but I can talk about that because God's been helping me. That was 30 years ago. I'm not worried about the LGBTQ or any alphabet that comes after me. I know the agenda. I know what they've done. I know what they're going. I'm very clear on that. I don't run. I'm not the type of pastor that makes everybody happy. I'm a type of pastor that's been in the schools, that's been in those school boards, and I've been able to work in different genres because I know a biblical foundation. I'll go with 6,000 years of history. The XX is a female and the XY is a male. God creates in His image. If the parents want their child to change 18 times every year, their sexual identity, they're free to do that. If you're a parent, you're free to have your child do whatever. God loves all of us. Red, yellow, black, and white, whatever you want to be. And that's the thing that as I've been working in different sexuality orientations in my ministry, I haven't run from people with problems. I run to people with any kind of issue. I've been challenged in working with everybody, no matter your identity. Everybody has identity issues. Everybody has weaknesses. Everybody has whatever. And my thing is God has a way of bringing people to understand in their way. It's not my way to throw rocks at anybody, and it's not my way to put specks in anybody's eyes. We are here to love everybody where they are. There's no stones in my pocket, and there's no pointing fingers at anybody because of my journey. My journey is to be in a situation to help everybody on every side and have a biblical foundation to love everybody because we're all created in our image. Yes, the agendas of the right and the left and extremes are for fear. They're making big money scaring us. That's the agenda. Fear. Sales. I'm not scared. I'm not fearful. I've been able to walk in different arenas in business, in ministry, and in life. I've had kids in my own house take me to every edge I can go to and speak in tongues. Sometimes I've used an alphabet that wasn't good. I'm a real guy with real issues, facing real problems. How am I going to help our school districts? My heartbeat is for the 25% of kids who don't learn like everybody else. My heartbeat is for helping those who are ready to jump out, who have learning loss. You mentioned in your question about those. We started at birth in 6 months. We work with pediatricians in District 1 to provide intervention with speech therapists that start at 6 months. Where I think we're the only district that does that. So we've been engaging and working in those issues. Yes, BITE, B-I-T-E, Business, Innovative, Trade, Education. I've been working with business leaders and educational leaders behind the scenes. I don't put it on my webpage. I've been working on how to help those kids transition to job ready. Home, health, H-O-M-E, health, occupational, medical education. I've been working with our situation of helping kids get involved in the medical field and hoping that we can get a medical governor's school while I'm superintendent of education. And looking at working in all the areas that we have in all of our places that we serve here in the low state, upstate, the Midlands, and down in the low country. We have a program that has 15 tracks in it that we're working on in 8th grade. We have a drone program. We're the most in the state drone trained, $50 an hour for real estate. That's what they're making. We have the only program, second in the nation. We are training pilots in 4 years in high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, to be pilots. We are amazed at what we're doing, and we're glad to do that. I've been working with the superintendents about changing the nation. And so I'm looking to do things nationally that no one else is doing. Also, on our platform, I have a great honor of meeting a person who's gone into sex trafficking and experienced that. And we have developed a curriculum in Florence that I hope the whole state can use and adopt to, where you can have sex trafficking and sex education and help kids if they're 12 years old or under. I don't believe in all that stuff early, and the parent has permission to do all those things. So I'm excited about helping people. And we targeted 1,800 kids in high school and in middle school, and 25 of them were in direct target to be sex trafficked in our district. I don't have my head in the sand. I don't have my head in the clouds. I have my head where we need to be able to connect and move and help kids who are targeted and who are being preyed upon and groomed. It ain't going to happen. God is at work in all what we're doing, and I think my time is about up. All right? We'll have time for a question. Okay, one question.
I have a question. Can you tell us more about your 9 years of teaching experience?
Yes, my years of teaching experience was the Christian Learning Center with a Master's of Divinity and Master's of Education. That was off campus site. It didn't cost the school district a penny. And that was where I saw a community need and didn't make that much doing it. But we had 150 waiting lists when I was there for 9 years. I taught 1,500 kids. I love what Kizzy says, that she can name all those characters. And I love being able to teach. What in the hell do you want? Off campus, God, sex, good sex. The parameters of what biblical sex is all about. The church, God created it. We got the best thing going. We shouldn't let the world take it over and manipulate it and make it awful. And this whole idea of the porn issues and everything else. People need to know that first year, a 5-year-old got an iPhone, they can have all the porn they want. If you don't have those parental things on there, we are seeing those issues, and we've been having to deal with those issues in 6 and 8-year-olds and 7 years old. So being an advocate for the community, stepping out of my comfort zone as a pastor, putting myself there in those classes, and creating an environment with teams. We had 5 teams that worked together, and they learned. We had prayers every day. They wrote prayers. We kept up with those. We gave them their Bibles, and they did. We had a little mining program, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and all that kind of stuff. The sword of spirit, teaching them the spiritual attributes and the armor of God, the belt of truth. All those things we were able to do, and they were able to ask questions. And most people don't realize that a teacher who's a Bible-based teacher is free to talk about their situation and their lives when they're asked. The people on the left will say, you can't talk about the Bible. If your kid asks you where you go to church, you're free to talk about what you want to do. It seems like even ministers are getting in that mindset that you can't talk about issues. If the church doesn't talk about issues, if pastors don't take over the government mountain, the last 2 years, most ministers wasn't involved in the government. And nobody's doing it. I love hearing about ministers running from office. I remember the ministers left and got their guns and fought for our civil war. I think most ministers don't understand the impact they can make. And those 9 years have done weddings and done a couple of funerals of those kids I've taught is a lasting legacy that many people are too scared to get out of their comfort zone. And I have no problem working hard and stepping out of that comfort zone, doing something nobody else has ever done. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Manus, and I'm so glad to be with you tonight. Thank you for the invitation, Freddie. And I just want to say thank you, teachers. This week is American Education Week, but today the governor proclaimed Happy Teacher Appreciation Month. So teachers who are here, thank you. Let's give them a hand. So I'm glad to see Union County's current Teacher of the Year, Christy. She was at the State Teacher of the Year Gala last night. So great celebrate. I look forward to being with you next year when you do that, the Teacher of the Year Gala. So we do need to celebrate our teachers because they work so hard every day to make a difference in the lives of the children that we have in our schools. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Representative Gillum, thank you. You truly support education at the State House, and I appreciate you doing that. And I think I'm going back and forth with this. Do I have to stand somewhere in particular? I know? Okay. So, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a wife of a fabulous man. He has to be to put up with me. So, I'm married to Amiel, and we have 3 children. We have 3 children with 3 different abilities, and we have a child with a disability. Now, Rebecca is the oldest, and she was always gifted and talented, always did what she was supposed to do. They never had any trouble with her. And then my middle one, he was the job. He played every sport there was to play, and he just barely got by with what he had to do. Y'all are shaking your head. Brian, you really shaking your head. Were you one of those? Yeah. And then I have Jonathan. God bless us with a very late life child. But when he was 5 years old, we had a golf cart accident. And so Jonathan has traumatic brain injury. So all his life, he was in special ed. So as a parent, I had to learn how to deal with children with 3 different abilities. And they're all different. But I will tell you, our family is so blessed. Jonathan works so hard. And he is now at Wingate University in Monroe, North Carolina, going to college to be a special ed teacher. And who better be a special ed teacher than somebody who lived it his entire life? So y'all lift him up because he has to work a little bit harder than everybody else. So I'm very, very proud that he's there. I'm a former teacher. I taught 3rd grade at Irwin Elementary in Lancaster County for many, many years. And then when I was teaching, I was the state president of Palmetto State Teachers Association. And I came on staff the next year, and I'm now the executive director of Palmetto State Teachers Association. So let me tell you a little bit about PSTA. We were formed in 1976 so teachers could belong to a professional association without being affiliated with the union. Before that, teachers in South Carolina could belong to their Union County Education Association, or the SCEA, the State Education Association, or the National Education, the National Union. They could belong to one of those, 2 of those, or all 3 of those. And then our state unified with the NEA. And in order to belong to 1 or 2 of those, they had to join the union. They had to be a part of the largest union in the United States. And there were teachers in South Carolina who did not want to do that. And so we were formed to give those teachers a choice. And I am so glad that PSTA is the largest professional association for teachers in South Carolina. I went to the University of South Carolina. My undergrad is in elementary education, and then I earned my master's in early childhood education, and then I went to Winthrop. Because back in the day, you could take classes you needed for education administration. And so I had my education administration from Winthrop. And it's important because you've heard those of us that have already spoken talk about earned masters. So let me tell you a little bit about why that's important right now. In 2018, the General Assembly passed a law. And the law had a couple of different parts to it. The first part of the law was the constitutional amendment that was on the ballot that gave the people of South Carolina the opportunity to vote whether you wanted to keep this position as elected or if you wanted it appointed by the governor. And 60% of South Carolinians who voted said they wanted to keep it elected. That's why we're here tonight. The second part of that law dealt with the qualifications. And the qualifications that the General Assembly put in was that you had to have a master's degree, among a couple of other things. So that's why when you hear us say we earned the master's, that's important. Because unfortunately, we do have people on the ballot who do not have a master's degree. And that's a concern to me. So what happens if Travis, no offense Travis, if Travis or Ellen Beaver get elected? So what's going to happen? Because we all in this room know who wins this primary in June will be our next state's education. Y'all agree with that? I think to stand right here or something. So what will happen if our candidate does not meet the qualifications in November? Who knows? Will this automatically go to maybe a Democratic candidate? I don't know what's going to happen. So that's why it's important that we make sure that we elect somebody who meets the qualification of the office. That's very important. I'm also a 17-year veteran of Lexington Town Council. If anybody knows anything about Lexington, you know that we are very conservative. And so I've been on town council for 17 years. Most of that time, I was unopposed. The last time I ran, I had somebody run against me and I beat him like a drum, so he won't do that anymore. Last year, I was honored to serve as the president of the National League of Cities. I was the first person from South Carolina to ever hold that position. That's an honor for the town of Lexington, and that's an honor for the state of South Carolina. So when I became second vice president in the National League of Cities, Trump was our president. And so I was excited that we were going to have a Republican president of the National League of Cities and a Republican in the White House. Well, and that did, you know what happened in November. So when I was the president, the Democrats were in charge. And as the president, as my job, I had to introduce in a Zoom meeting, because I will always be known as the Zoom president of the National League of Cities. I had to introduce Vice President and Nancy Pelosi. And you're going, why are you telling me that, Kathy? Well, I'm telling you because, unfortunately, this campaign has gotten a little ugly. And the person who's not here, they decided that they were going to put out a video to call me a liberal. And they took snippets from that introduction. So just like when people introduce you, I know that you, Mary. Charm introduced me. I said, thank you, Charm, for that introduction. You do that, right, Anita? Yeah. So they said, thank you, Kathy Mangus, for that fine introduction. Thank you, Councilwoman Kathy Mangus from Lexington, South Carolina, for your leadership. That was taken. So if you see that, please know where it came from. And it's a shame that I have to use part of my 15 minutes to explain that. But that's how that came about. But I am proud to have served as the president of the National League of Cities. So let me tell you what I want to do as your next state superintendent of education. When our children leave our public schools, I want them to be ready for the 3 E's: enlistment, employment, or enrollment. They need to be ready to serve our country if that's what they want to do. If they want to go to college, if they want to go to USC Union, or if they want to go to USC Lancaster, or Carolina, or Clemson, or Wingate, wherever they want to go, they need to have the skills so that they can be successful in college. And if you need to employ them, they really need to handle a job. We've got to improve our career technology here in South Carolina, and that's going to be very important to me. You know, we got to support our teachers, not just Teacher Appreciation Week or Teacher Appreciation Month in South Carolina. We need to support our teachers every day with the 3 R's: recruitment, retention, and we need to reward our teachers. We've got to get more people in who want to teach. In December, we had 1,200 vacancies in the classrooms of South Carolina. We can't do that. That means larger class sizes. That means our teachers are having to cover other classes. We can't do that. We've got to get people who want to be teachers. And once we get them, like these great teachers here, we got to keep them. We got to pay them. We got to make it where they have less paperwork, less testing, and Miss Janice going to restore discipline so that these teachers can teach and that young lady right here can learn without being interrupted. And we got to do that. And we need to hold the parents accountable. Hold their job. Say, hey, your child is disrupting this classroom. Come pick them up. Come get them. We got to make these parents accountable because our students deserve to learn. So we have to restore discipline in South Carolina. We need to empower our parents, teachers, and principals. We need to improve and reform education standards. I have teachers tell me all the time, we have too many standards. I can't get a look at all these heads and shake. I can't get through it. We have too many standards. CRT is not part of standards in South Carolina. It will continue to not be a part when I'm the superintendent of education. We need to make sure that we are teaching the fundamentals, civics, citizenship, more time on reading, so that by the time they're in third grade, they are ready. They are ready to go. They have the skills they need to be successful in life, because if you don't know how to read, you're not going to be successful. We need to expand our faith-based involvement in our schools. We need more mentors. Be like Steve Johnson over here. He is working with the band in Louisville. He even sits there on Friday nights and plays with them. He's a mentor to those students in the band. And that's what we need. Brian's church. We need to increase our faith base. And it's been a couple of years since parents have been able to get in there to be mentors or community leaders. Our kids need that. We can't go in there and teach about Christ, but they can learn about Christ, or they can see Christ on how you present yourself. So we do need to make sure that we're in there mentoring our students, because I tell you, they really do need that. Expand school choice. There's some open enrollment bill. It's getting ready to pass the General Assembly, so that is going to help. But we really need to hold our districts fiscally accountable for what's going on. You know, I've had people say to me, Kathy, why are you running? You know, here you are at PSCA. That's going great. You don't have to come council. Why are you running? Well, I will tell you, I have a 2-year-old granddaughter named Olivia. And when I told my family I was going to do this, I put her on my lap. And I said, y'all know how much I love this baby, don't you? And they said yes. I said, because of her, I'm running for our next state superintendent of education, because we have to have somebody there who cares about our teachers, who cares about our students, who cares about our parents, and most importantly, cares about kids that are in our schools every single day. So I'm running for my Olivia and every other student that we have in the schools of South Carolina. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to tell you, I am the right person at the right time with the right qualifications and experience to be ready on day one to be your next state superintendent of education. Years ago, when I ran for town council, I had a gentleman say to me, Kathy, you always ask for the vote. So I'm asking for your vote in the June 14th Republican primary. And thank you so much for allowing me to be here tonight.
Federal money to local municipalities. municipalities, which often constrains cash. But the legislative agenda seems very good.
Okay, thank you for that. And it does not have the federal money. It lobbies just like other industries lobby for different, like I lobby at the General Assembly. We're on behalf of teachers. And so it does not have its own federal money, but it lobbies for money for our cities, towns, and villages across America. So it does do that. And I will tell you, as the president of the National League of Cities, I was very glad that I had the opportunity, had the opportunity to have a board, appoint my board members who were Republicans, my committee chairs were Republicans, and also bring in more conservative cities across America into the National League of Cities. Thank you.
My name is Travis Betts, and I'm from Starkville, South Carolina, and I'm running to be your next state superintendent of education. It's a mouthful. I did graduate from public schools, but I promise I know how to pronounce that. I'd like to address a couple of issues that were brought up today. People asked the question, how can you get a master's degree in 5 months, or I don't know exactly the phrasing, but it was implied that it's an improper master's degree that I'm getting. Let me tell you, it's very easy. You work your butt off. I wasn't given anything in my life, and I worked my butt off. I lived in an 8x8 room to build the current company I have, and I tell people all the time, it's pretty funny, the harder I work, the luckier I seem to get. So if that answers the master's degree question, it is a legitimate master's degree for you ladies. I will have that ready when I'm sworn in on day 1, so you will not have to worry about that. It is a box that we all voted for. I remember that initiative on the ballot, and I go, yeah, that makes sense, master's. And so when I read the qualifications to run for this office, yep, we better get that box checked, and so I will have that completed for you. Why am I running for state superintendent of education? It's very simple for me. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. They're not currently in the school system. And when I started looking out at that, I go, that doesn't look good. But more closely to my immediate life, because I'm an employee, I have a whole slew of employees that can't do basic math, single-digit subtraction. They're not reading at their grade level. I sit at a round table of CEOs, that's where I was today. It's from across the state. We have an employment crisis. There are people there, but I can tell you, as I meet with executives at Volvo and Boeing and other industries, they're not employable. Our state has consistently failed our students. I'm a product of the education system. In the 90s, I guess it was, we would say, thank God for Louisiana and Mississippi. The status quo has not worked, period. We have been 43rd, 46, 47, well, just choose your pole and it's bad. Somebody's got to make the stand, and I've chosen to make that stand. The first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. I'm here to announce very loudly, South Carolina has an education problem. If you're happy with what has gotten your tax dollars right now, if you're happy with the product that you have paid for with your hard-earned tax money, by all means continue to vote with the status quo. Because that's a continuation of what we've got. Albert Einstein very famously said one time, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is close to insanity. Well, let's stop the insanity. People say, Travis, well, you're not a teacher, and I appreciate it. You're on the front line, and I'll talk about that in a minute. No, I'm not. I have not spent any time in the classroom. But I have spent the last 15 years in the CEO suite. And there's some basic fundamental business principles that work regardless of what you do. My favorite current example right now is Elon Musk. We've all heard about him. He's fighting for our free speech, right? I promise you, Elon Musk doesn't know how to build a rocket ship. Promise you. But SpaceX is sending up rockets every other day, it seems like. Building great teams. Fighting for the people in the front lines. When my guys in the field call me, they said, what do you need? We have a saying, beans, bolts, or Band-Aids for your veterans in the room. You'll know what that means. I go, what do you need? I go, you're on the front lines. And you're the only teacher that I know in the room. Someone talk there. But you're on the front lines. What do you need? We're going to support you. And bringing back parents and teachers is the first step to building a successful education system. PTAs are on the decline. We all know that first and foremost, parents are going to take care of their children. We're going to do what's best for our children. But uniting and teachers again is what's going to help solve the educational crisis we have. CRT, SEL, whatever they want to call it, those are woke things only designed to divide our country. That's not relevant. We need to focus on basics. You've heard a lot of politicians, a lot of educators, back to basics, a very good buzz phrase. Reading, writing, 60% at third grade level. We're going to focus on back to the basics, and we don't need to focus on anything else until we accomplish those goals. If I showed up in the ER and I was in a traffic accident and I had a femoral artery bleed and a cut on my arm, what do you think they're going to look at first? They're going to ignore the cut on the arm and stop the bleeding. Until we have a South Carolina population that can read on grade level, do math on grade level, science, we don't really need to be talking about everything else. I was criticized in the paper once because recently they said, well, he's not talking enough about home politics. Our legislature is doing a good job fighting for your rights. That's not something this office will need to worry about very much. If elected and it becomes an issue, you have my solemn promise. I will stand up for your rights as parents, just like I'm going to stand up for my rights as a parent. Because I do have 2 students that are about to enter into the education system. Your rights come first. Mask mandates, vaccine mandates, that's a parental choice. You're going to do what's best for your children, just like I'm going to do best with my children. I'll be damned if someone's going to tell me what I do with my children. I made them. I own them. And the same thing applies to you guys. You made yours and you own them. And you're going to do what's best for yours. If your student's in a failing school system, the dollar should follow the child. Whether that's a home school, a Christian school, a private school, a public school, where you think is best for your student, that's what you do. We need to work with the legislature in this office to make sure that it doesn't come with strings attached, as my colleagues have pointed out. There's a long list that we could go down, and I could take all of your evening and talk about what's wrong. And I could give you this long list of things and talk about how I'm going to fix all these individual things. And I'm sure somebody in the room could find something, one minuscule point that I won't know. But it's fundamentals. In my organization, I call it a fanatical obsession with fundamentals. No great organization, IBM, Amazon, whatever they need, they have a culture of fundamentals. I'm very proud to have a master agreement with Nucor Corporation. They came to my company and said, we have these problems, will you fix them? And they require very creative solutions, thinking outside the box. And that's the type of work that our education system will need. Because what we've been doing has not been working. It is a time now to act. I don't believe we've had a candidate for this office that has had the will to do it. I'm not a career politician. I'll be very frank with you. Yesterday I was in my offshore boat fishing. The Monty Bite is on and it's really good. I don't need this job. I don't plan on making a career out of politics. I have a passion for fixing my home state's education system. And I'm so proud of you guys for being part of the democratic process. As I've been getting involved in politics, if you would, I come to these events and I see people. You guys are engaged, and I feed off of that energy. It's exciting to know that people genuinely care. And you want what's best for your children. You want what's best for our state. We can make a difference. And I promise you that I'm the leader that can make that difference. I will break for the bones of my body on that wall if I have to. If I get in office and I'm in there for 4 to 8 years, and I can't make a difference, I will stand tall knowing that I pushed with very thick skin, but a really soft heart. We can make a difference. I promise you I wouldn't take all of your time. It's maybe dinner time, but I know not standing between people and their food, so I'd like to open up the questions at this point. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. You all talk about engaging the parents and all this. So many of the parents couldn't give a rat's rump about their children. They won't get up in the mornings and give them a pop cart. The kids come to school dirty, hungry, sleepy. How would you address that situation? And also, so many teachers are leaving the profession because they don't feel safe in their schools with the attitudes and the rudeness and the lack of discipline of the older students. They're afraid of being beat up. So those 2 different questions, but what do you think?
Yeah, again, parental involvement is first and foremost. And we can see from our inner city statistics where you don't have parental involvement, you have a decline in performance. I have the fortunate to live in Ben Navarro's district where he has formulated Mentorship Academy. And this is in a very inner city community. They're reading at 83%. They're doing math at 84%. And so I've spoken with Ben, and there are methods to that. And the benefit of this position is we have a blueprint, and we need somebody that's going to say, hey, parents, we need your involvement. I think COVID did us a great favor. I have not experienced this yet, but as I've been meeting with people, parents oftentimes looked at school as daycare. We said, gosh, I just want my coffee, I just want to have a quiet night. And we send our kids to school, and I don't know how long, because I haven't been a parent for years, but I have experienced those moments in my life. I'm like, please just be quiet, right? And COVID said, well, you're going to get home. And they woke up and said, wait, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? No, and so it has awakened the parental involvement. And I'm thankful for that. And there's a fire. If you watch the media, if you watch parents, you watch teachers, there's a fire in their belly to correct it. Teachers need to be supported. I can tell you right now, if you want to sweep a room in my organization, you start at $18 an hour. Teachers have to pay a living wage. Statistically, if you look across the country, top performing schools in top performing districts are averaging $57,000 a year. You can't expect a teacher to work 3 jobs and care about your child. We start every interview in my organization with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're familiar with it, it's very simple. You have this bottom part, food, water, shelter. And you can't worry about the next one until you worry about these bottom ones. And you can't worry about being a great employee until you worry about here. And so we ask every employee of my organization, what do you need to be satisfied? What do you need to worry about taking care of your kids and putting food on the table? Because I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about how you're going to be a great employee for C&T. I want to talk about how you're going to take care of our customers, because that's what business is about. And so if you're not taking care of the frontline people, you're doomed to fail. I was really disappointed in the state legislature in the bill they just passed. I was talking to a friend of mine from Maine. He's a very liberal person. Really liberal. He said, you sound like how liberal on that idea. I said, good ideas aren't blue. Teachers should be paid a living wage. Plain and simple. It may be a hot topic, but this is a big skin. I don't use the word I don't care, but I know what it takes to be successful. And supporting the people on the front lines is the other half of that equation. If you're not doing that, just stop. Just stop. We don't need to talk about reading or writing or science. If we're not supporting the people who are teaching our kids, and we're not getting parents involved, it's done. We can just end the conversation. I won't use the word Bible, but the first business book that I mandated all my managers to read is called Good to Great. How many of you read that or heard of Good to Great? Kind of, right? It's like a business Bible. Very simple concept. Get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, put them in the right seats, and the bus will go where you need to go. Business principles are not complicated. They're hard. They take discipline, but they're not complicated. And I'm not offering you complicated solutions. I'm offering you fundamental solutions that have been proven to work as a business person. Sorry if that was a little long-winded for you. Teachers need to feel safe. When I was in school, and I can only speak from that experience, they need to be, if you have a disciplined child, there needs to be severe consequences, and that's not politically correct right now. I can tell you, my daddy came to the school and put my butt in the school. I mean, I was a corporal punishment person. I don't choose to use corporal punishment. My daughter and my wife and I had a little bit, she's a softer heart, and I go, time out. You're sitting there in time out, and screaming and wailing. I go, no one ever died from crime. So our teachers need to feel supported. I don't know what the individual discipline looks like, but I would be a strong opponent for discipline. Your question about zeros. I can tell you that everyone in this room learned more from a hard problem, learned more from a mistake where you were held accountable than you ever did when you got your trophy. That's a cultural problem we have as a nation, and I'm not running to fix cultural problems. If you want to know my cultural beliefs, I'm happy to tell you, point to my Bible, but some just good old-fashioned Southern logic works a lot. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I heard you say that you got the money should follow the child, and one of the places that you mentioned you apologize to would be homeschool.
Yes, ma'am.
How would that look for money to follow, taxes to follow money to a homeschool?
So I don't believe in discriminating between the educational system. Now, is that an opportunity? And I almost lost a 20-year friend over this very So that's not fair, that's state money going into private hands, and someone can stay at home and have 4 kids and make 40 grand a year. Would I let them know? Would there have to be criteria? Yes. Yeah. But it should follow the child. If you think that's what's best for your child. And he said, well, that would, what if the parent's not accredited and, they really strip their child's education? I mean, well, yeah, some parents do some really stupid stuff with their children. There has to be a criteria. I'm not just saying, no, you can stay at home and get some money.
The majority of children that are able to come to homeschool, not all of them, but a lot, maybe behind. But that's just.
Yeah, again, there should be a list of criteria for the money to college children, but it should be based on some basic principles.
I was just wondering, and I appreciate you saying that teachers should be supported and such, but how would you respond to teachers who say that, how does he know what I need? Because he's never been in a classroom. He doesn't know what I do all day. He doesn't understand what the front line is.
Just like any general agency, we ask you, we bring you into the conversation. No business empire was built without a coalition.
So what have you been hearing from the teachers so far?
So many teachers are tired of working. I have 3 jobs, and I don't know if I haven't read that statistic, but what I've been hearing is, I'm working 3 jobs. I'm working 3 jobs. And that's dumbfounding to me that our teachers, you don't become a teacher for the money, you don't become a fireman, you don't go to the military for the money, but you've got to be able to earn a living. You cannot focus on teaching with this one thing if you're still worried about putting food on your plate. Money doesn't solve anything. If I paid you $1 million a year, you wouldn't infinitely become a better teacher. That's not how that works. There is a point of diminishing returns, but we've got to satisfy some fundamental needs. And listening to people, that's business 101. I got time. Thanks.
I started with this microphone's curved, so I'm not going to pick it up either. All right. To the candidates who came tonight, we really appreciate you. If you would please get all around. With current educators, retired educators, we have school board in here with us as well. We've got parents, every last one of you have children. Everybody's got a vested interest in this, and that's why we wanted to put this forum on. We wanted to give you an opportunity to hear the candidates from them. This is a very important election. Now, I believe before several dropped out, this was, I think it still is, the most contested race in this state is the South Carolina State Superintendent of Education race. So for you to come out tonight and speak with us here in Union County, thank you so much for taking your time to do that. First and foremost, before we close out, I've got a few things I want to touch on. It'll be very quick. I want to thank Sergeant Lee, who is outside right now for the Union Public Safety Department. As a law enforcement officer, I can tell you right now, he is outside missing family time, probably missing dinner, to keep us safe. I know he's not hearing me right now, but he's too busy keeping us safe watching outside. So thank you, Sergeant. Secondly, I'm going to wish the Union County, South Carolina Republican women a safe trip home. They are tonight out in Spartanburg. They're out to see Vice President Pence, of course. And apparently we've already had a few pictures come in. We've seen those, and they're having a great time. So we want to make sure to tell them good luck, have some fun, and please get home safe on that drive back. A couple of important dates real quick. For those who are listening or going to be watching later on, those in attendance, one of the most important things we can do as individuals who want to make sure change is happening, things are happening, shaking things up is voting. So I'm looking around the room. I'm not sure how many of you are registered or unregistered. So I want to let you know that May the 13th at noon is the last day to register in person, vote for primary. May the 15th is the last time to register to vote online. Important date on June the 14th. Any of these candidates, I believe minus one on the Republican ticket, correct? That is how you're going to vote. If you want to vote for any of these in the primary, the Democratic and Republican primaries are going to be held on June the 14th. So make sure you go out and vote. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You can't really put up an argument if you haven't put up a vote in the ballot box. That's my opinion. I stick to it. So make sure you do that. If you haven't done that yet, I want to encourage you to go out and register to vote. So with that being said, June 14th.
There may be a runoff as well, so vote in the runoff.
Well, that's true. And that's something else that we're going to cover here too. We actually have a special election that's going to be on June the 21st. I'm going to say this, and it's going to be a quick soapbox statement. We had a special election for District 5 County Council just a few weeks ago. I'm ashamed of the number of people that came out and voted. It was so low. I can't believe it. I couldn't believe the numbers. What was it, fine? Maybe just under 200 out of what, 739
total votes.
How much?
239 total votes between Republicans and Democrats.
That's sad. Just over 200 votes. I think we can do better. And I want to use this platform right now to encourage anyone listening. We know that June 14th is the primary, the state primary, whether it's Republican or Democrat. There will be a special election on June the 21st. It's the next week. Get out if you're in District 5 for Union County and vote. Our Republican candidate is Gerald Eads, Pastor Gerald Eads. He is going to be on the ballot on the Democratic ticket. It's Carolyn Rutherford. All right? You got two candidates. We can do better than 200 plus, just a little over that, to go vote. Union, I'm asking you to come out, show support in the 5th District, and vote. Also on the 14th, let's not forget that. That is the primary in the state of South Carolina. Please get out and vote. Again, if you want to be heard, you want to complain, at the end of the day, you can't really say much if you haven't voted. So keep that in mind. Last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to close up on this. Union County Republican Party will meet the first Monday of every month, 6 o'clock at night. 708 Duncan Bypass here in Union. The fourth Tuesday of every month, fourth Tuesday or Thursday? It's the fourth Tuesday of every month is when the Union County, South Carolina Republican Women meet. If you're interested in getting involved in your county and in your community, this is a start. This is a stepping stone. We have a couple of people that are in here tonight that had never come to any of these meetings. We actually had people that didn't even realize we had a Republican Party here in Union to begin with. All right? That's why we're here. That's why we're putting this on. That's why we asked these candidates to come here tonight, and that's why we're grateful to have our local candidates, Doug Gillum, Melinda Butler, Philip Russell, Danny Bryant, Annie Smith, and Gerald Eads here tonight, all running as Republicans in Union County. We're so proud of you, and I'm proud to serve as your chairman. So thank you so much for each of you to come out. Appreciate you coming out. Y'all have a safe trip home. God bless you.